Okay, so, Stephen and I have met before, so I am the chair of the nominating committee and Curtis is one of the members of the committee. And Julia is our able support here from administration. There are two other members on the committee, Ken Rogers and Tandra Carlson. We didn't think we needed to overwhelm everybody by having everyone here. So you're interested in potentially running, and Dawn has got her name put forward here too. So thank you for your interest. So this whole idea of the session is to give you an idea of what being a director could involve, could look like, and just trying to make sure that candidates have a pretty good idea of what they're getting themselves into. Pretty casual. So if you have any questions, just jump in. We'll just do like a kitchen table chat if that's how you want to do it. So SASCU, or Salmon Savings and Credit Union, which I think is our legal name, was founded in 1946, so before all of our time, right? And we have about 20,000 members over our 5 locations, which includes Sorrento, Sicamous, 2 branches in Salmon Arm, and we've got insurance in Enderby. So about $1 billion in assets. We hit that landmark a year ago. Something about that. We're hovering right around $1 billion with 150 employees that take paychecks home, courtesy of SASCU. We have a pretty dominant market share in the area, about a 50% market share. Half the people in the Shuswap do deal with us in one way or another. So we're very cognizant of the fact that we do have an impact in the Shuswap. We want to make a good impact there. So the board does go through a process of identifying certain skills needed on the board and to keep it balanced depending on who's in office at the current time and who may be leaving. And so this year we've certainly identified risk management as an area that we appreciate some strength and skills, and digital and technology experience. So those are the areas that have particular emphasis this year. Doesn't mean you have to be an expert in all the areas or necessarily any of the areas. The strength of the board is the diverse backgrounds that people bring to the table and the different viewpoints. We don't, board that has all people thinking the same way isn't as valuable as a very diverse board with lots of viewpoints, and whether they're employed or independent or entrepreneurs, different aspect. So what have we got here? Oh, yes, we're among the top credit unions of all of Canada. So there's what, 34 left in BC now, or is there less than that?
Even less.
Less than that. So there's a lot of mergers and amalgamations going on in credit union land. And we have stayed pretty true to our original origins and just our natural growth. So this is our agenda here. So we want to go through the election cycles of the candidate packages and some dates to remind you of. And we'll just work our way through this agenda that Julie has prepared for us. So you've got, I gave you a package there, Stephen. So that's got, there's 2 different packages. One is the information package and the other is the actual nomination package to fill out the paperwork to get your paperwork in. So Don, they're accessible online as well as in paper form if you need them. We've worked hard to make sure that it's comprehensive but not overwhelming, trying to capture the gist of everything. And sorry, Curtis, jump in whenever you can.
No, I just, you're on a roll. I don't I feel like I'd just be cutting you off.
So if there's anything in here that's missing or whatever, feel free to reach out to any of the committee members. We'll do our best to answer your questions, or we'll get back to you with the answer if you've managed to stump us on something.
Maybe I'll speak about the interview, bit of the interview.
Sure.
Yeah, so there'll be interviews. So, like you'll put your, foot forward in the application, and then there'll be a bit of an interview process. That's a time for us to one, get to know you, but also assess the skills. One thing I would always encourage everybody going into the interview process to know is you have to connect the dots. So if you say, oh, I'm a VP of marketing, and you're like, oh, that's amazing, or whatever background you've got, or you've got to connect that to some of the experiences and things we're looking for. Don't leave it on the table. Make those connections. Take your time. We're not sitting here going, you've got 3 minutes, rush it. Take your time with the interview. Let us really get to know you. Let us assess your skills. Be open and honest. It's not a bad process. It's very casual like this. But we're really just trying to get as much information as possible to make some recommendations.
And ultimately, the board does make, or the committee makes recommendations that these candidates are recommended, that yes, their skills and attributes are suitable for board, or to be a director. It's not limited to however many positions. If there's 7 people and they all have the necessary, or the desired skills, and would be a good fit, they all get recommended. So it's not like there's only 1 or 2 that are chosen. So your nomination papers are due January 31st by noon, or is it midnight?
Just about midnight, yeah, 11:59.
Okay.
Just to make sure there was no confusion between noon and midnight, 11:59.
Okay, and then the interviews will happen very quickly after that. So they're scheduled for February 6th and 7th.
Yeah, I've got the package already
Okay.
drafted.
Okay,
I just wanted to wait for the meeting, just.
yeah.
So there's no information I needed to consider before starting.
And candidates will be informed that they are receiving an endorsement or not. And so there's still, if somebody chooses at that point, oh, I didn't get endorsed, I want to withdraw, or after all the process going, you know what, I don't think this is for me after all, there's still time to withdraw before all the publication and publicity goes out for things. So then the election is online and virtual, and that is for 2 weeks in April. And then the results are announced to the membership at the AGM on May 7th. So, and from there, then the new directors take office and away you're off and running.
And candidates will be notified of the election results once we have them, prior to it going to the AGM, so you know in advance.
So we've kind of skipped through that slide. We've talked about that. You will be asked to create a biography of your strengths and what you bring to the board table. So make sure you focus in on that, on your biography. It's not just I live in Salmon Arm, I've been here for 20 years. And so just focus on what you're bringing to strengthen the board table. And we don't permit campaigning. We certainly encourage all candidates to encourage people to vote, but if you're sharing something, if it's in social media, SaskU will put out here's the candidates. They all get shared, not just your individual profile. We're just trying to be very non-political and fair to everyone that way.
So actually, just a question there. So, campaigning, how does SaskU define campaigning? So it sounds like obviously posting something on social media would be, if I am asking my mom and brother who have, SaskU accounts to vote for me, is that considered campaigning? What does that mean?
I mean, it's fair enough to go through your own personal contacts and say, I'm one of the candidates for SaskU. Don't forget to vote on this day. I'd appreciate your support. But standing on the front doorstep of the credit union, say, vote for Stephen, that doesn't work.
Okay, billboards, signage, kind of the soapbox sort of thing, that projection. But as Jude mentioned, if you call, your mom and dad or whatnot, that's not frowned upon.
Yeah, okay. So speaking to, your personal, your personal circle. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's defined a little more in the nomination information package of, you're free to talk to your friends and family, but when it comes to advertising, we encourage you to share SaskU's posts. So feel free to put it on your social media.
Because they're
Just don't
neutral and
do-
open to all the.
It shows all candidates, all the information. Just don't make and create your own social media posts.
Understood.
And then this just gives an example of how candidates will show in the documentation this year is something a little bit different. So it's identifying the skills that we're looking for this year in particular. And then it would have your picture and whether you're recommended, and then your name and the skills and competencies that you identify, just to try and help people make the matches. So it just gives a sample because it'll look a little different than it has in previous years.
As you know, as a board, we're trying to make sure the membership knows this is the gaps we're trying to fill. Here's some candidates that could fill these gaps too. So we're just trying to be very open and transparent about it. Candidates will be invited to or asked to make a video, just a very about 2-minute video, very short. And it was
Questions?
Yeah, it was 3 questions. It was structured. Here's the questions and everybody got to answer the question and then the next question, so that it was equal time for everybody and very short and succinct. Because we're
Can you clarify and just confirm if there's an acclamation and if there's not an election, everything is still the same except an election, correct? So we would still do videos. It's the same standard process except there's not an election. Can you confirm that?
No, I'm not going to confirm that.
If there isn't an election, we won't do any of the election materials for advertising.
Yes, yeah. But there would still be a video that you would want us to do and all that kind of stuff?
No,
No, okay.
that's the marketing material for the election.
Oh, okay,
If it's an
Okay.
election, then none of those materials are a requirement.
okay. Yeah, that's what I was asking. Okay, thank you.
So now, having said that, the board does have the power. It could be an acclamation if there's not enough candidates to fill all the spots. There are 3 positions every year. So there's 9 directors, 3 every year. So if they're acclaimed and the spots are filled, that's it. There's no election. It's saves some time and bother in one way. If there isn't enough candidates to fill all the spots, the board does have the power to appoint someone later on to fill that 9th chair or 8th or 9th chair. So it's happened occasionally, but ideally we want the membership to have that choice, not having the board choose who's next. So what all this will lead up to is May the 7th, our board, our AGM and the general meeting for the public. Here's our new directors. And from there, we roll right into an organizational meeting, our first board meeting. So we will, it's usually a luncheon meeting and we'll do some orientation for the new board members because now there's access to a lot more information that you wouldn't get just as a nominee. So, you know, minutes and strategic, more, you know, planning documents and budgets and things like that. So, and we also set our committees. So our committees and our table officers. So our president, vice president, secretary are elected every year once we know who the board is. So the board will immediately set table officers for the coming year. And then we also try to work to getting our committees set up so that the committees are off and running and doing the work that they need to do. Directors are typically on 2 to 3 committees each.
How many committees are typically?
We've got it.
There's technically 7, but 2 meet on the same day. So while there's 7, we have 6 different meetings. Our conduct review and our governance go hand in hand.
Most of the committees are meeting quarterly. Nominating's a little out of sync because we do a lot of work at this time of year and then we don't do anything else for the rest of the year. So now having said that, so we've got the board meeting on May the 7th, right after the AGM, and the AGM's set for late morning.
11:30.
11:30, okay, so it'd be the afternoon of the 7th would be an orientation, quick board meeting, jumping right into it. And then we have a planning session. Our annual planning session is set for June 6th and 7th, which is a Thursday, Friday in Kelowna. And that is a must attend. We really need all directors there to provide adequate input and help with planning. We've gone a little bit different approach this year. We've been doing some monthly planning with a facilitator, but it'll all get pulled together in June. So it's a hurry, it's a catch up really for the new directors to go, okay, where are we here? There's a lot to catch up in a short time frame. But we typically find that directors, first year's a big learning curve. Second year, you're starting to hit your feet. Curtis, you can reinforce this?
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot. You know, there's training that's provided, and I would say I kind of waited to the last little bit to kind of jump on the training, and I regret not being on it like more out of the gate, just kind of doing the online training, being involved, sort of thing. So, yeah, it's a steep learning curve. It also depends on the committees that you're on. If you're on, you know, sponsorship or, you know, nominating, that's one you can kind of just ease into nicely. But if you jump into credit and market risk,
There's a lot of policy.
there's a lot of policy and there's a lot of, you know, just learning how to interact with stuff that's, you know, wildly not your specialty, you know, so, but you have a role to play, you have an important role to play, and it requires you to catch up. And it's a process.
And we certainly try to, with new directors, pair them up with a seasoned director as a mentor. So if you want to reach out to them in off time or preparing for the meeting and reading the package going, I don't understand this, or can you give me the background on that, so that it doesn't always have to be taken up at the board meeting. I mean, questions are absolutely welcomed at the board table, but we want to respect everybody's time and have a productive meeting. So if there's some background information that a new director needs, having that mentor is certainly very valuable to them. Are we on the credit union structure? So we are governed, well, certainly have the Credit Union Act and BCFSA, the BC Financial Services Authority, oversees the work that we do. They do credit unions, insurance, and real estate. Yeah, I thought I almost lost the last one there. We also have to obey rules like money laundering and financial services and transactions. And our deposit insurance agency, Credit Union Deposit Insurance Corporation. So there's lots of eyes looking over what we do and making sure that we're not being too risky. SASCU is not a high risk tolerance credit union in the first place. It's certainly something we set parameters and want to stay within. So where am I going in this circle? I always get lost on these circles.
Well, and I know it's really small print, but maybe you want to just touch on the different committees.
Okay, thank you. So we've got the government rules, regulations. SASCU the board sets our policies, and committees will recommend policies, but it's the board ultimately that authorizes those policies, approves them. So the committees that we're working with, we've got a CEO and Human Resources Committee. So they are kind of like a function like an executive committee. They meet with the CEO to see where we're doing as far as the strategic plan, evaluation of the CEO. The entire board takes part in that, but this committee's more thins it down to a working document. Nominating committee, which you've met some of us here tonight. Community relations and sponsorship, which I think we've nicknamed the giving committee sometimes. So it's the one where we can take some of our profits and award them to deserving community groups in the area. Conduct review and governance committee. So governance is very much the rules and making sure that we're staying within the boundaries. And conduct reviews, if there's anything that needs to be looked at further, or if there's any exceptions, conduct review may kick in to have a look at things. Or as a director, our accounts are earmarked as related parties, so there's a little bit extra scrutiny or diligence and reporting as far as that goes. We also have the Audit and Operational Risk Committee, so that's a very big one for our credit union, and credit and market risk, so lending the loan policies, so. we- You can hear risk all over that, so this, this is always setting our tolerances and what our policies will be in those areas, and they go under regular review and revision as things change, or our regulator says, you know what, you might be a little too loose in this area or too tight. Might want to see some adjustments there. Okay, so we did talk about how often the board meetings are, so we've been trying this year to reduce our meetings. Hasn't worked yet. But basically our board meetings, instead of having them monthly, and we would do about 10 a year, we've gone to quarterly as an experiment, and we'll be evaluating that in June to see if we want to continue with that or not. Having said that, then we also threw in some strategic meetings this year, so we've been kind of meeting every month anyway. Tuesdays seem to be credit union night. The fourth Tuesday of the month is board meeting, 5:30 meetings, typically 2.5, 3 hours.
The goal is to have board meetings set to no more than 3 hours. So there's a hard stop, and committees are the 2.5 hour hard stop.
And Thursdays are another backup day, so it's hard when you've got very busy people and schedules, but basically we say Tuesdays are kind of credit union day and Thursdays are our fallback day if we can't do that. We do have other meetings that, oh, sorry, and I will say that this boardroom has been outfitted thanks to COVID and whatnot, so that if you can't make it in or you're not feeling well, but you still want to participate, you can dial in like Dawn's done tonight. And we've at times had several board members join us from wherever in the world they may be.
Some from, I think it was Thailand.
Yeah.
Ken was in Asia. I'm regularly in Bella Coola. So.
John was in Italy, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
John, I forgot about that. So
Yeah.
it is very flexible for whatever lifestyle and, you know, whatever happens.
Depending on the whims of technology. It doesn't, I still, in person has more effect, I think, but we try and remember that there's people on the screen that we need to pay attention to as well. Having said that, we do have goodies and food here, a light meal before the meeting, so people digitally can't enjoy that, so. And there is, yeah, exactly, and there's some here tonight, so we must remember to have them. So there's other in-person meetings too, that we count as professional development, if nothing else. So the Okanagan credit unions get together in the spring and the fall. And it's nice to meet with directors from other credit unions, and it's quite director focused as opposed to management focused. It's director education, director information. So it's a Friday, Saturday of networking and information sessions. There's credit union conferences. There's Central One Conference, which is I used to call it BC Central, but we've joined with Ontario. So they get together in the fall, and there's this lesser one in the spring, but it's not really it's more of a AGM rather than a conference.
It's a combo.
Where the fall conference is much more education component or lots of breakout sessions. Credit Union Day rolls around every October, about the third Thursday in October, and we like to encourage directors to get out to the branches and visit with members and just make sure we put a face on the board and chat with people, see how they think we're doing. If something's bothering them or if they're really loving something, we'd love to hear it. Other community events, give me, we may do presentations.
Giveaway, check presentations.
Yes.
Recent.
Yeah, so board members may be asked to present a check or attend a ribbon cutting or an unveiling. We had a public work of art in Sicamous that we had as an anniversary celebration. So I finally got to see it this year. Got out there. But yeah, directors are encouraged to take part in some of those as we need it, just for a credit union presence. In order to keep up to date with the credit union, every director is given a SASCU email. and secured access to it through our portal. We also have it's not April, Board Effect. There we go. We have a software called Board Effect where all the minutes and items are kept there for reference, and it takes a two-factor authentication. Two-factor authentication,
Yeah.
authentication. There we go, to get into that. We're not able to print anything. That's part of the security of it. But directors are able to use whatever device of their own that they feel will be useful and practical in their life.
Yeah.
They tried to often give us computers, and
Yeah, is that still an option if they want it?
if the technology in your life doesn't allow it or isn't functioning for whatever reason, the credit union will provide a laptop too. But most people say, I don't need another laptop. Curtis, weren't you traveling with 3 of them?
I had too many. I
Yeah.
had too many of them. It was too much. So,
We do encourage directors or ask that they check their email at least twice a week to stay up to date on things. And meeting prep will take as long or longer than the meeting itself. Just reading the background information. Those packages can be 250 pages. Quite easily sometimes.
and they'll probably to some degree grow and ebb and flow, but don't be intimidated by it. Like the one thing about accessing, I think about technology and accessing that is through the portal. You can at least like you go through it. It's easy to navigate. It's not like you're showing up and it's like, here's a binder. And then you're just sitting there trying to navigate through a binder page by page. You can kind of ebb and flow and
you can make notes on the app itself, right in the documents, to highlight and circle.
staff is also very good at getting things published at a good time. There have been different world, but like there's times where, you know, things get published and you're like, great, 200-page package, 48 hours before the meeting. This is going to be a bit of a wild ride.
Yep.
But the staff here is quite good at getting things published significantly in advance so that, you know, really there's no excuse. So you should at least have the adequate time to find some time over the weekend to curl up on a Sunday for, you know, 2 hours and just go through it and, you know.
Yeah, it's always available by the Friday of the weekend before.
So typically we published, so if the meeting's on the Tuesday, we publish the Tuesday before. The only time we sometimes delay the board package to a Wednesday is because there might be materials that come out of a Tuesday night committee meeting that can then very timely flow into the board package. But very rarely do we publish after the Wednesday.
And as a board, we're not that tolerant of late things on the table either, so. It's a standard that we set, that we expect, that we need the opportunity to prepare, and staff have been very good at following that expectation. So one of the best things about being a director is
Money. Oh, sorry.
okay, that's not what I was gonna say.
Sorry. Saw the opportunity. I had to take it.
Is the training that is offered. The government, and Curtis, you can probably speak to this better than I, because you've had more recent training requirements than I have.
The training's good. Like you go in through, you do it through the online modules, you do a series of webinars. They're very group focused. They're very dialogue based. So it's not like you're sitting through, like your A stuff is a bit of a slog.
And you must complete that in your
You
first year.
must complete that in your first year. That's where it's like, I waited to the end and it was like, oh my God, this never ends. Luckily you get compensated for it. So it's not the end of the world. But when you move on to, when you get past that, I'd recommend just getting that one done because it is the slog. Other stuff is more dialogue based and you end up with connected to like a Zoom or a webinar with a whole bunch of individuals all over the country, taking part in a discussion on different key areas. And I find that to be, for me in my learning style, that was a lot better just because it's dialogue based, it's situational based.
Mhm.
Instead of sitting there going like, oh my God, A, B. Right, but again, it's to each individual. You might, you know, depending on your learning style, you might look at the AA and be like, this is great, and go into the conversation thing going, oh my God, so. It is quite good. I've enjoyed the last few that I've taken, so, you know, they are there. I would say to any director who starts, it's, you know, the moment you're logged in and good to go, start the process because it really helps. I found that it's kind of a base level that helped, but it didn't really give me as much as I was hoping for, but the other levels, the B and C, I found really gave me tangible things that really help, so. But you kind of got to do A to get there, so.
Yeah, and the government has mandated that, so if you don't complete level A in that first year, you can't continue to be a director. The government has just said, no, this is a very baseline that directors need to know in their first year.
And
So,
level A
Mhm.
is 2 parts. So the first part is 6 online modules. They estimate they're about 15 minutes a module. I've heard directors usually take a little bit more than that per module. And it's kind of a quick snapshot of the 6 different categories of all the level B and C courses. And then there's a foundation kind of online class module, and that completes your level A. And then level B and C are more specific topics and dive right in, like Curtis said. You can sometimes do them in person as well, not just virtual, if you
yeah,
prefer.
they're pretty rare now.
They are rare now. They definitely got to online during COVID, but sometimes you can find them in person.
And, so then there's level B and level C, and the board does have, we want directors to take 2 courses a year, and that may be level B and C courses, or it could mean attending conferences and taking professional development that way, just that ongoing learning. And if someone chose to, they can also become accredited as a Canadian ACCUD, accredited Canadian Credit Union Director. Which involves another exam to pull it all together. So we've got 3 on the board right now, I believe, who've
Sure. Too.
Dave, John, Constance, did she see hers? No. Okay,
I can think of 2 for sure.
okay. I did have it, and then I was off the board for a while, and I didn't keep up the Pro D, so now they're gonna make me rewrite it if I want to do it.
Oh,
So
no.
yeah, that's kind of.
Shenanigans.
I know.
They should just let you do the courses and submit them afterwards.
I don't know if you guys also saw, I saw it in an email from CCUA that, because in my work life, it's the ICD for Institute of Corporate Directors. And so CCUA developed a partnership. So there's a cross accreditation, I believe, right?
Okay, I'm not sure, Dawn.
Yeah, they sent it out. CCUA sent it out. They did a partnership with ICD, and so you can be cross accredited.
Oh, good, okay.
For corporate directors.
Okay. Now, and as Curtis alluded to earlier, you get paid for some of this stuff. So the members have approved a remuneration amount, and we are remunerated based on per meeting basis for committees and for board meetings and for conference and coursework. We pay for mileage. If there's expenses incurred, we will reimburse for your meals, hotels, things like that when you're off on credit union business. We do pay a portion of your internet every month to cover the technology, the cost of connecting technology wise. What else am I missing?
You pay for the courses.
Yeah.
So, and then if you are going anywhere, you get compensated for your travel, you get compensated for a day rate. If you're representing SASCU, there's a rate there. If you're going to the planning session, there's a rate there. You know, if you go down to the vault, they'll just let you swim in the money. You don't get that, but.
Yeah, I've been in the vault,
You
the
gotta-
pool there is very small.
Yeah, I know it is. Isn't
There's
it?
DuckTales dive you can do, but no.
You can tell you got young kids. Julia keeps track of it all, and it is reported out to the membership at the end of the year, what our meeting attendance is, what our remuneration is. So there's very much transparency there.
And so as a director, you review it twice a year. in May and in December. So if you're an onboarded director, you'd only review the once that year, but it's only paid out right before Christmas. So it's paid once.
And it is T4able earnings.
Yeah. That I know.
Yeah. Okay, that's, now we're at the question and answer part of the thing. What would you like to ask?
Well, I presume, I don't think I saw anywhere, that there's, directors and officers liability insurance in place.
Very much.
Yeah, I figured that was approved presumptions.
But perfect, good question, yes. We're not a stiffly formal board. Board meeting will be 9 directors and 5 or 6 management around the table. And we adhere to meeting decorum, but we like to be collegial as well, so it's not. But we do have motions and seconders and voting, and Julia keeps all the minutes for us, keeps us in line when we forget to vote or forget to make the motion. What else can we add? Look,
So of the current, or of the remaining composition of the board, are there any other, are there any sort of professionals like, so obviously as an HR professional, you're an HR professional, lawyers, accountants, any other?
we have a lawyer on our board. We have,
A retired lawyer.
retired lawyer.
John's an entrepreneur, isn't
Yeah, John's an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Um,
he? I'm a government hack.
Gotta have some of those.
Yeah.
I'm a retired, unemployed, not doing anything type of person.
I'm a retired accountant.
Yeah, retired superintendent
An
of
entrepreneur.
schools. Who's it retired? Oh, yes, Ken, okay.
Hmm.
Small business lender. We're maybe a little lean on entrepreneurs right now. More employed people than not. But, and we do try and get a geographic representation too, or encourage that, but it's democracy. It's, you know, who comes forward, who gets elected, and away we go.
Joys of the popularity contest.
You can't even campaign, so just gotta do a really good video.
Yeah.
And we do create those videos in-house.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that was an it's all an intimidating task. I do respect that, but we did shift to doing it in-house to try and help.
Even the playing field and make it.
Yes.
And the nominees got to see the product and didn't they? And
Yeah, so we sent them our final draft so they could review the video prior to going out to public. Some chose not to look at it, some did. But usually by that time, like, while we're recording the questions, I mean, I do the recordings, so they're not super professional, but they come out pretty good. But so I read out the questions and then you answer the question. You can answer it 1 time or 10 times. There's no pressure to get it right the first time.
it's just
and-
edited in.
Yeah, you get to watch it right then and there. So you usually leave feeling pretty good about what will go to the final video. Yeah. We do our best to make an uncomfortable piece as comfortable as possible.
Usually people ask about time. How much time does this take? No, that's it.
Boards take time, that's, I think you actually kind of covered that fairly well in terms of the meeting and then the pre-workload that goes with that, so I think that was fairly clear.
I have a question. So the interviews are February 6th and 7th, and the closing date is January 31st. Just from knowing everyone's busy schedules, like, should we keep a block of time open? Just because people are booking several weeks in advance, right? Like, I'm just mindful of, there's a tight timeline from when it's due to when the interview is. So would you like us to keep some times open on the 6th and 7th? And would those be during the day? I know there's a meeting on the 6th night, so it wouldn't be an evening, but just wanting to make sure there's enough time. And are you and, is June and Curtis doing, are they virtual or in person or flexible?
Intention is more in person. But I mean, if we had to accommodate somebody who was sick.
Yeah, and it's actually it's Tanja and I are slated for the interviews.
Okay.
Curtis is a backup if one of us is not able to be there.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I'm happy, if somebody knows they're planning on running, I'm happy to coordinate booking time slots anytime. And my trigger is when I receive a nomination package, I'll go
Okay.
through the package, and then I'll start blocking off those times with candidates so that everybody has them blocked in their calendars.
So for Julia's sake, don't leave it till the 31st if you. Because it gives her a chance to go through the package. If there's any deficiencies, they can be corrected before that midnight deadline. Nobody wants that last minute rush.
And we have some requirements for candidates who are running. They have to go to our Step Central organization who does the bonding, and we have to receive bonding before somebody can be a candidate. So that's something I do between the 31st and an interview taking place. So the sooner we have that and they're able to get that in place, the better.
Any concerns? Anything we can shed light on?
I guess the only question I think I have left is just confirming the biography that gets put into the application package is the one that would go in as part of the marketing package out. Is that correct? Or is like, and just in terms of audience, it's the one that's in the application package for the nominating committee and then a separate one gets done for the members, or is it the same one for both?
So we use the same one, but what I can say is I've often seen the one that goes to the marketing material be condensed, but it's always given to the candidate to review and tweak. And it's all based on, you have this 4-page document. Once you have all the financials and everything in there, depending on how many candidates, that dictates how much space they have. So it will be used from that bio, but might not be the full content.
Because we do publish it in a newsletter to the members that goes in
Yeah.
the statements. Yeah.
I was just
Mhm.
thinking, in terms of, of the targeted identified competencies, is, would be good to target if the audience is very specific to the nominating committee. But some of it might be less, impactful for membership more generally.
And I would say probably you're better off writing that for the general public. When the interviews happen, the nominating committee will
You'll be able to speak to that.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then your bios also live, I believe, on our website.
Mhm.
So if you look at our current directors, they have little,
Yep.
kind of that snapshot bio.
Perfect.
Good questions.